Great. Hello, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us. I have to kind of send a disclaimer up front, what I always do, because it's important to understand that we do not understand ourselves as an agency, or we are not consultants, because that is important, because I've been a retailer the last 20 years, my whole career spent in retail, so I know what it feels like in the morning, like some of you probably, when you get a like-for-like net sales report, which I woke up with within the last 20 years. So that is important for me, because there are a lot of things that I will say nobody wants to hear. And so I call this the inconvenient truth of what will happen when it comes to retail. And most of the time, when I don't put this disclaimer up front, most people think, yeah, he can say things like that because he's an academic, he is theoretical, he's an agency, he does not know what it means to run retail operations. I definitely know what it means to run retail operations, and therefore it's even more important to understand what will happen. The second thing which is important, there has been, within transformation, within digitalization of the last years, there have been created a lot of bullshit bingo words, and experience is definitely one of the top 5, I would say, which will make it into experience. If you have been to Euroshop, for example, in Düsseldorf, I don't know, it doesn't matter what stupid little thing a booth was presenting, at least it was saying that this should at least contribute something to store experience, which is a lie. We have to distinguish between, I don't know how to explain it, there's a German word which is called Einkaufserlebnis. Most of you probably know. I'm not talking about Einkaufserlebnis. This is a totally different ballgame. Einkaufserlebnis is a concept out of the 80s, so we believe that a Christmas market in a shopping center is something that drives people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an experience. An experience is a very holistic, very complex thing that will change the future. So what we're talking about in the future, brands and companies will enable themselves to create brand experiences, product experiences, and service experience. I will come to that later, what I'm talking about. And what we will buy and what we actually already buy is, in the very last consequence, experiences. We don't buy products anymore. Within the developed countries, in the Western world, we only buy experiences. And I will show you a few examples how crazy it already got, what we are willing to pay money for. So that's important to understand when we talk about that. What's happening at the moment is, it starts at this time. I don't know if you have read all this kind of things. I really can only force you to cover that very closely. Thousands of stores, I'm talking about thousands of stores in Northern America are closed down this year. So something starts right now, which is already happening over years, but it starts right now. Nobody wants to hear this, but it happens. Because whenever we talk about retail, especially within our industry, we hear a lot about, yeah, our target is to increase sales density per square meter. That's what we're talking about. That's impossible. It will not be possible to do this. And the second thing is, traffic will never come back. We work on so many concepts where people come to us, Marc, we have to do something for the traffic. I mean, how stupid is that? It will not be back. And by the way, within fashion, it has an additional component, which is something that we also have to take into consideration. The fashion product itself became more irrelevant as it has ever been before when it comes to the basket of consumers and what they are willing to spend money for. So putting these three things together, stationary physical retailing is getting under pressure already. And what we have to understand, you know, maybe this the sentence from Bill Gates, he said this once when it comes to banks, and I just translate that to retailing. I would say retailing is essential, but retailers are not. So what I'm talking about is, if we would talk about e-commerce, for example, or if we would talk about online marketing, I would not be worried about, because e-commerce and online marketing is something that you can get under control. We're talking about something completely different, and that's the biggest problem at the moment, especially in Europe, that the digitalization or the decade of change which we face at the moment is completely misunderstood. So whenever it comes to this, we always try to convince ourselves that human beings have always been facing change and that we always have been able to do so, okay, when it comes to industrial revolutions, automations. The difference is that things have never been happening so fast, and they have never been happening so intensively. So we're living in a decade, and you can decide for yourself if you like that or not, but we're living in a decade and we're managing companies within a decade where change is kind of, it has never been like this before. And the most important part to understand it begins right now. Most of the people that I talk to always think, okay, that was it pretty much. Okay, Facebook, Instagram, online marketing, it's pretty much done. Zalando's there. No, it starts right now. It gets even worse. it gets completely crazy, and we still altogether completely underestimate what's happening. So if you take AR, VR, if you take Internet of Things, if you take drones, if you take self-driving cars, 3D printing, if we just try to imagine what happens within these technologies within the next 5 years, 7 years, it will change the way we buy things, the way we consume things completely, which means I don't have any idea in my mind where I say, people are willing to get in a car, drive downtown, go to a shopping center, go in a store, try to get the pants, which is not there, as always, and then drive back. That will not happen. It's over, okay? And the problem with that is that we still take wrong decisions when it comes to investing the money, signing contracts. We still take decisions that last for 5, 7, 8 years and not taking the actual situation already into consideration. So I have no clue what's happening, don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not a tech guy, I'm not a digital native, I turned 40 this year. I have a lot of people, we have 300 people in the company, a lot of young talents who try to explain the old guy what's happening. So that's why I'm not telling you what happens, but I say what we think will happen, okay? So you can decide yourself if you agree or not, so I call this chapter in what we believe. The most important part is that we have to understand that target groups are over. And that always comes to, yeah, it's just a new word for target group. No, it's not a new word for target group. It's a completely different ballgame. Retailers will have to manage communities. They will not have to manage target groups in the future. I just take the example of Tesla, for example. You know that Tesla Model S, for example, this car has been sold in more pieces in Northern America than the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Who's willing to pay for a car like $120,000 or more probably expects a different kind of design, a different kind of quality or whatever. So these people, when it comes to Tesla, this is a global community where people want to participate in a specific mindset. For most of these people, when you talk to them and you get them in an honest moment, they say, the car kind of sucks when it comes to design, when it comes to quality, whatever, but I'm willing to be part of that movement, okay? It's just, there are hundreds of these kind of examples where people want to show that they belong to a specific community and that they share a specific mindset. Technology will become ambient. What I learned when I go to the US and when we are in San Francisco, where we have a small office for 2 years now, a word that these people always use, and they say it's shy-tech. I like this word a lot because technology will seamlessly disappear within the infrastructure. We have a completely wrong understanding within continental Europe when it comes to technology because we are mainly design and we are mainly engineering driven, where the US guys come more from the use case in terms of does this technology make sense or not. So, for example, like this digital signage things that we do in retail, I don't get it. So you put millions of euros into screens into the stores and then the whole year there runs the making of the fall-winter campaign. What the kind of bullshit is that? Nobody needs it. It doesn't create any additional value. So we have to understand that a store, a good store of the future, will have no obvious technology at all because nobody needs it. And when you go to San Francisco, this is the most old-school city you can imagine. You are not allowed to take your phone out in the hotels. There's no VLAN party happening somewhere. It's like you say, okay, guys, you changed the world here. So where's all the technology? Where are all the gadgets? Where is it? And they say, why should we use it here? It doesn't make sense at all. So let's have a coffee like we had it like 30 years before. So that's one big problem, and we have to find new ways to understand and use technology. Retail spaces in total are way too big. Full stop, okay? They are all too big. They all have to become smaller. And yes, and this is something that also nobody wants to hear, rents will go down, thank God. So to all the property owners, the party is over. These guys will never get the rents they got in the last 10 to 20 years, which is the good thing, because if spaces get smaller and the rents goes down, there are a lot of room for concepts back to the high street which have simply no chance at the moment because they cannot pay these incredible rents that these people ask for. And this is the slide that most of my clients hate, but it's part of the inconvenient truth. There is a great variety of products that simply don't have any right any longer to be offered stationary, full stop. Most of the things that people consume nowadays will become part of their personal, never out of stock management. So why should I buy toothpaste, or why should I buy a T-shirt which I buy for years in the same size? Why should I do this? You have to take into consideration that for most of the things we're talking about in Europe, they are already reality for most people. Like within 77 million people within Northern America, out of 300 million US people, for 77 million people, same-day delivery is already happening. Okay? So take same-day delivery, take drones into consideration, so whatever you need, and when your fridge talks to your products and you don't even notice them, something is going to be empty, imagine what that means for traffic downtown. It becomes a nightmare. So, but this is also a good thing, because there's so much bullshit that we present in the stores that nobody actually needs, which gives, again, a new opportunity. Will there be stores in 20 years' time? Will there be a high street? I think so, yes, there will be. But the motivation to go downtown or the motivation to go to a shopping center will be completely different. So we have to understand that stores become more part of the media mix for a brand than as has been considered today only as a distribution channel. If we continue to take the perspective of stores as distribution network, we will definitely fail within that. So I say the point of sale will have to become the point of experience, means that at this store, showroom, fair, conference, whenever people come together in a physical location, it will has to be about brand experience, product experience, service experience, as we are here today, as the fair premium group is offering, because this cannot be offered by different technologies. But sales density per square meter, conversion rate, transaction-based distribution networks will not fulfill clients' needs within 5 to 7 years' time, taking all the technology developments into consideration, where it says, okay, I go downtown because of, for example, I need something. So what happens is, we have to understand that there's happening a new paradigm which comes from buying is over, and we come to a world where shopping is in the lead. Means shopping is part of leisure activity. So when people want to, they need to be willing to spend their time for doing this kind of things. So we have to get into a mind shift set, in a shift of mindset when it comes to sales per square meter to, as we call it, experience per cubic meter. That's the part where most of the people say, okay, I'm out. But if you take this a little bit further, you understand what I'm talking about. And I want to give you one example, which is my favorite, when it comes to experience economy. As I said in the beginning, we have to accept that within developed countries, we already live in an experience economy. And I strongly believe that most younger people, these people who work in my company, like between 20 and 30, they don't get my approach, they don't get my lifestyle, they don't get my motivation, they really don't understand why I have a car or a flat, or why I think that the accumulation of wealth, as we all are programmed for, right? The accumulation of wealth, that this is something that should be a target in life. So most of our generation says, when I turn 30, and when I turn 60, or when I turn 65, then life gets great, right? No job, kids are out of the house, all the money there. This is an approach that most of these people will not approach, because they say, okay, what about life is great today? Why should I wait until I turn 65? So that means that I think that most of these people, most of these generations, will die when they turn 80 or 85, and they will not own one piece, not 1 cent. And they say, it was a hell of a ride. I enjoyed it a lot. So that means something, because and many times, companies and brands make a great mistake when it comes to, yeah, but is this really our target group? Do they really have the purchasing power? I'm talking about people who are all graduating from college, so they're architects, UX designers, coders, marketing experts, strategists. They are definitely our target group, 100%, because they have the money now and they will have the money within the next years, because they are all well educated. We all need them. They will always be able to decide which job they want to take. So yes, they are our target group, but they don't want to buy our products anymore the way we presented them to them over the last years. So I'm coming to my example of experience economy, which you probably all know. It's gin tonic. Gin basically is made out of corn, right? So the ingredients of gin is close to a cent. It's like nothing, okay? It's a very simple alcohol that is very cheap to produce. If somebody puts it in a bottle, tells a story, you know, we are the kind of guys out of the Black Forest, handcrafted, blah, 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 and says, $35 a bottle. We say, makes total sense to me, $35 a bottle, total sense, I buy it. If you then go to a bar, And there's this right atmosphere, the right light, the right ice cubes, the right glass, and the guy behind the bar gives you kind of the feeling that he has probably more experience with gin tonic than you have, and he gives you like of the good consultancy within that approach, why this gin tonic probably fits your taste best. You say, $12 for a glass of gin tonic, makes total sense to me. And then, that is for, we're working on, at LIGANOVA, we're working on to create theirs as a trademark. I call this the Ushuaia phenomena. Ushuaia is a big club in Ibiza, probably some of you know. So if you go to closing in Ushuaia, which I like a lot, it's not only that you pay $75 to get in, excluding drinks, to make be very precise about that. Then you buy a gin tonic. This is the worst gin tonic you ever got, okay? It's in a plastic can. It's very cheap gin. It's horrible tonic water, $18. And everybody thinks, makes total sense. I mean, it's closing Ushuaia. Why should I not buy a gin tonic for $18? And again, when I talk about these kind of examples, they say, yeah, but these are, this is a premium market. This is upper class. No, it's not. These are the kids that don't buy your product anymore, that don't buy my product anymore when I was in fashion retail the last 20 years. These people decide to spend a fortune to be part of that. Okay? This is all our clients. This has nothing to do with an upper market, with a premium market, and I call it the Ushuaia effect. We have together, as marketing people and as branding people, we together have unlearned to make people make people pay a good price for a good product. That is what marketing was all about. It was about telling people to make a specific, to reach a specific price premium. So whenever it comes to, it's all getting so transparent, that the people are so price sensitive, nobody's willing to pay good money for a good product. That's an easy lie. It is our job together within the experience economy to find new ways when it comes to retailing to make people buy good products for a very good price. So what we have to also take into consideration that retail stores then, yes, have to be evaluated differently. So we have to create kind of a new KPI toolbox, because the KPIs that we use today to manage these kind of stores, they will not fit any longer. So I'm talking about a completely new understanding of KPIs. That would be a lecture in its own. We're working on a lot of concepts there to measure and evaluate the value contribution of point of experiences in the future, and to close with, as I say, the new retail paradigm. So we have to get from a product-centric approach with this, which this industry still is very much addicted to a customer-centric approach. So it will not be us any longer who says, these people need this, okay? There will always be fashion victims, don't get me wrong, but our approach is wrong. We always think we know better what people want. We have to get from target groups to communities, as I said. I have never seen an industry that is driven so much by egoism in terms of, because of the competition, I know the competition is high, but the mindset is wrong. We have to find ways to find ways to collaborate, to understand our brands as platforms, to work together with each other. In most other industries, that's already happening. The big players all talk to each other very closely, find ways together with clients, with consumers. We have to find new answers here, and that's my most important one. We have to come from a cost-based pricing approach to a value-based pricing approach. Everybody always tells me that the Zara guys are so fast and blah, blah, blah. This is not why they are so successful. They are so successful because they develop a product, and at the end of the process, they take the blouse or the pants or whatever in La Coruña and say, you know, honestly speaking, didn't get out that well as we thought. So what is the price? So that, let's say 29, because it's not worth more than 29. What we do is, there's landed cost, and then there's the markup for wholesale, and then there's a markup for the retailer, blah, blah, blah. And then we explain ourselves why this fucking blouse is 49. And then we always ask ourselves why we have 35% markdowns, because the blouse was never worth 49. And we have to understand that people are very critical about the price-value perception. It's not about price points anymore. Price points are over. It's about price-value perception management, and price-value perception management is only possible if we find new ways, as we say, to approach as value-based pricing. So we have to come from sales per square meter to experience per square meter, as I said, cubic meter. The distribution network will become more, as we say, a brand shaper approach within the media mix. Outsourcing to crowdsourcing is also one, and the salesperson will have to become a brand ambassador, and I have 16 seconds left. I'm the only one who's taking this clock serious. So thank you very much.